After much struggle in MSI so far, C9 finally get their first win at the tournament, keeping themselves under control when it mattered most, and put themselves in contention for the Rumble stage. Let's see how they did it. Starting off with draft, there's been some pretty solid first bans from both teams, but INF cannot get rid of anything from the potential B1s of Cloud9, giving over the Morgana to them. Standard Kai'Sa Udyr is then followed up by INF as an R1 R2, but this unfortunately leaves up the Renekton Tristana response from C9, essentially guaranteeing winning matchups top, and the Trist will be winning no matter where she goes. So INF definitely should have taken one of these two champs to take off the powers of some of these picks off C9, as it's an extremely strong and flexible opener for them. This issue continues into the R3, where INF actually opt for the Gangplank R3, which is definitely one of the best matchups remaining, but kind of goes against what the Kai'Sa wants to do in this lane and kind of confuses their comp identity. The second phase of bans comes out, and C9 opt to remove solid R4s for INF through the Orianna and the Alistar bans. INF opt to remove problem champions in the Rise as a tech pick for C9, and then Rakan that prevents Kai'Sa from being able to thrive, so decent drafting from both sides here overall. An R4 Rel comes out from the side of INF, which is a decent combo with the Kai'Sa, but I love this adaptation from C9 here on the B4, B5. Understanding that they can move the Tristana to mid to make room for a Jinx Thresh combo not only gives a really solid matchup for C9 on the bot side, but also shifts their comp identity to be more flexible and play for the front to back as well. The investment in coaching staff is pretty clear here from C9, and I love this adaptation. The R5 Victor as a response doesn't really achieve much against the Tristana mid now, although it is a decent control mage, but definitely a draft advantage going to C9 here for winning or even lanes across the map entirely, and a more flexible team comp identity. INF have a decent draft too, but there's just more opportunities for Cloud9 to be proactive in these fights and delete whichever target they want to go for. Moving on to the in-game scenarios, there was some insane Udyr pathing in the early phases. He starts off clearing bot to top here and actually just goes bot crab because he's aware of Blabber's pathing as well. He also knows Blabber is on the crab, so he takes some incredible pathing to get a mix up and earn that first blood gank on the bot side. Cody also has a great flash W here to prevent Perks from being able to teleport into the fight, which contributes to the cause. This kind of continues into the rest of the game as well, as Solid Snake just has really solid pathing for the first 10 or so minutes, just going all the way around Blabber multiple times, respecting the power pick in the Morgana, and playing around his teammates really heavily here. This continues until 11 minutes, until Infinity has a really good read onto Fudge here, as Bugax uses TP timer to instead get a huge pick onto Fudge instead of TPing onto the tower, using that pressure from Solid Snake to pull him over and ensure a guaranteed skirmish. At 15 minutes, C9 just gets caught out a lot here, and they're just not playing around the potential numbers that INF can send. Solid Snake's playing heavily for the team here, gladly sacrificing his ability to farm in order to impact the map more, and it pays really good dividends. C9 really just don't respect the possible timers of Cody's TP and the Cannon Barrage here, and just get punished pretty hard for it. At this point, C9 is still in a decent spot as the Jinx is scaling well and they have the Dragon advantage here, so the game is still pretty playable. Just pretty sloppy play from C9. At 19:30 here, Blabber does an extremely unfortunate mispress on stopwatch, but thankfully for them, they had really good positioning on the Dragon control, and INF definitely overreached for their control here in order to try and answer this Drake. A huge pick on the Solid Snake comes out as a result, giving the third Drake for C9 and one step closer to play for that Ocean Drake huge win condition. The wave states are favored for INF here to note, but C9 have the positioning advantage, and that's what earns C9's Drake here. Up until around 25 minutes, there's been some small picks back and forth until this Drake at 25:30, where C9 willingly sacks their waves for the Drake Soul because they recognize that this is a huge win condition for them. This is a good idea here because normally you want to play for control and have really good wave timers, but C9 have already established good positioning here and they're willing to give up anything to get this Drake Soul. Realizing this, INF have to try for a Desperation engage in which C9 is just able to kite back INF perfectly, getting themselves that huge Ocean Soul, a huge swing in gold, and all the tempo they could need on the Baron. If we look at both teams here, INF want to win this fight by getting strong angles onto the enemy backline and use the Kai'Sa in order to delete the Trist and the Jinx. However, this is where the lack of engage on INF's comp from the draft kind of bites them back here. The responsive GP pick on R3 makes it hard for them to really reach the backline reliably, and that's what comes from R3ing something like GP when you don't really know what you want your comp to do. Ackerman's Rel is not really enough to reach the backline by themselves here, and that's what bites them back in the end. GP is able to be able to scale well, but can't really contribute to fights if he can't reach the priority targets. Udyr also cannot run through the entire free front line that C9 has as well, and this gives so much free space for C9 to just kite back INF and take the fight. So really well played from C9 here. From this point in the game, all the cards are on C9, they got their coveted Ocean Soul, a huge Baron spike, and they hit their champion's item specs as well. At 29:45, another fight breaks out on Fudge as INF try to get a desperation pick here. It ends up being a 1-for-1 trade here, but it's really not worth it for INF since they now have just no engage onto C9. This means that C9 can free hit every tower for the next few seconds and continue their onslaught of control. They get another kill onto Bugax at around 30:30, and then INF just continues to fall here and bleed out. C9 finally clean up their team movements by this point in the game, and then they're able to play around their win condition and the 2 ADCs that they have to just carry the fights. From here, C9 basically uses that control to continue that onslaught, get to the Elder, and then wrap up the game. Definitely a rough start for them in this game overall with some sloppy plays, but they clean it up and finally secure their first win of MSI, and hopefully they can continue heating up and cleaning up their play by the time the Rumble stage begins. Hope this analysis helped understand this game a little bit better, and I'll see you guys in the next one.